Welcome to LFC Transfer HQ, your ultimate source for all things Liverpool FC transfers. Like and subscribe for more football updates. Our first news is how Liverpool could line up without Virgil van Dijk, Mo Salah, and Trent Alexander-Arnold. Liverpool's star trio are still to sign any new deal, and the uncertainty around their futures continues to ramp up as we head towards the end of what looks like being a successful season. With each milestone in Liverpool's season seems to come a new headline about the nagging issue which has hovered over it. After the Champions League exit to Paris Saint-Germain prompted a new round of contract questions, Virgil van Dijk's response that he had no idea if he'd still be at the club next season was the latest answer that caught the eye. The likelihood remains that he is, of course, but until any deal remains signed and sealed, there is a sense of uncertainty about how the extremely likely champions will look next season. It really is an odd situation that continues to play out. The smart money is still on Van Dijk and Mohamed Salah coming to an agreement and staying at Liverpool, with Trent Alexander-Arnold's future less certain as Real Madrid continue to hover. But as the clock and those contracts tick down, the possibility that all three players depart has to be considered. Perhaps they are simply asking for too much money, or too many years on their deal for Liverpool's liking. Or maybe the Reds' hierarchy just want a clean slate for Arne Slot to continue the fine work he's done so far. It's a fascinating situation, and one that will all unfold in the coming weeks. But what would the post-Van Dijk, Salah and Alexander-Arnold world look like? And how could Slot line up his team with some clever new additions? We've taken a look at the possibilities. Goalkeeper and defense. Should the trio depart then, this is the area where there would be the biggest upheaval. And so, that shouldn't be added to by shipping out Alisson and immediately installing Georgi Mamardashvili as the new number one. At right back, Connor Bradley can step forward and make starting spot his own, even if the Reds could do with signing some backup for him, while Ibrahima Konate will have to take on the mantle of the senior centre-back in any absence of Van Dijk. The rest of the defence could then be made up of some new additions, and specifically a double deal from sporting director Richard Hughes's former club Bournemouth, with centre-back Dean Huijsen and left-back Milos Kerkez, both on the Reds' radar. Jarell Quansah, Andy Robertson, and potentially Joe Gomez, if he doesn't want to leave, will all get their fair share of games too. Midfield. The 2023 summer transfer window has to go down as one of Liverpool's best ever, with the complete midfield revamp they achieved now bearing fruit in terms of a likely Premier League title. Stay tuned for more updates on LFC Transfer HG, transfer moves, player signings, and latest news. Don't miss subscribe for more Liverpool FC transfer news.
Our second news is Jamie Carragher issues health update after leaving CBS Sports coverage feeling unwell. CBS Sports presenter Kate Scott announced during their coverage of Wednesday's Champions League round of 16 ties that Liverpool legend Jamie Carragher had been forced to leave the show early. Jamie Carragher says that he's feeling better after being forced to leave CBS Sports Live Champions League coverage early. The Liverpool legend began to feel unwell during Wednesday's show. Carragher, 47, had traveled down to London earlier in the day to continue his role as a pundit for the US broadcaster. Joining Kate Scott, Thierry Henry and Micah Richards on screen, Carragher was present for the start of the show, building up to Wednesday's remaining Champions League round of 16 ties. But by half-time, the former England international was no longer on the panel. Presenter Scott announced that Carragher been feeling unwell, so he wasn't able to provide analysis of the clashes between Arsenal and PSV Eindhoven, Aston Villa and Club Brugge, and Atletico Madrid and Real Madrid. While the games were being played, however, Carragher took to social media to issue an update. Feeling better now and just checking if the team can cope without me, he posted on his Instagram story alongside a picture of his screen watching CBS. The 47-year-old had been in good spurts at the start of the program, having worked pitchside at Anfield on Tuesday to cover Liverpool's clash with Paris Saint-Germain. Carragher returned to the studio on Wednesday evening and Scott introduced him by saying, "Tonight, just like the story of the prodigal son. A bit too big for his boots, he thought that life would be sweeter on the road, he thought he'd be away, enjoying drinking and reveling. But he took a major loss and realized his foolishness and he came home humbled, hoping that he would be accepted." Jamie Carragher, back in the chair. The ex-Liverpool centre-back even recalled a hilarious incident on his journey down to London. "I was on the train this morning, obviously a bit disappointed with last night. The Champions League music comes on the train," Carragher began. "I'm thinking, what? I haven't heard that before. That comes on, and then the guy starts saying, when you get to Euston, if you want directions to Paris. I'm thinking, what's he on about here? And then he did the same when we got there. So I said to the lad who was the attendant, where's the train driver? He went, oh he's 3 carriages down, it was too far to go, we just got into Euston. He was an Arsenal fan I found out, so he's putting all that on. So I said to the attendant, just make sure you tell him that Arsenal haven't won anything in 20 years and just make sure you tell him I told you and can you pass on the message please. Stay tuned for more updates on LFC Transfer HG, transfer moves, player signings, and latest news. Don't miss subscribe for more Liverpool FC transfer. Our last news is how Liverpool's Champions League exit affects Premier League title charge as fixtures confirmed. Liverpool will lick their wounds following their shock Champions League exit to PSG before knuckling down in their bid to beat Arsenal to the Premier League crown. Liverpool will bid to get over their Champions League heartbreak by winning silverware this weekend, and after Sunday's Carabao Cup final against Newcastle, Arne Slot's men will be able to focus solely on the Premier League as they attempt to beat Arsenal to the title. The Reds' fate will be decided by 5 key matches which are all played next month, and with no more European breaks affecting fixtures, they now know when the majority of their outstanding league games will be played. Arsenal, however, are set to progress into the Champions League quarter-finals. That means some of their games currently penciled in for April could be subject to chance. With Liverpool currently 15 points clear of Mikel Arteta's men, that could, in theory, allow the Reds to wrap up the title earlier than originally thought. As it stands, Liverpool need 16 more points from their remaining games to guarantee the Premier League crown. Slot and co will start the month with the small matter of a Merseyside derby. Everton have been reinvigorated by the return of David Moyes and held the Reds to a 2-2 draw at Goodison Park last month. Liverpool then travel to Fulham before games against West Ham and Leicester City. They then host Tottenham to round a busy month off. If Liverpool were to win all 5 of those games, then they could potentially wrap the title up before May, if Arsenal drop points in their own run of games between now and the end of April. Slot had hoped to cap a memorable maiden season with an unlikely treble consisting of the league, the Carabao Cup and the Champions League. And even though Liverpool lost to PSG on penalties, the game will live long in the Dutchman's memory. It was the best game of football I have ever been involved in, Slot said on Amazon Prime. It was an incredible performance, especially if you compare it with last week. Maybe we ran out of luck because the margins were so small. We played the perfect game, except for scoring a goal. It was similar to Paris last week, when they played the perfect game and didn't score. And then in extra time, they were maybe a little bit better. Stay tuned for more updates on LFC Transfer HG, transfer moves, player signings, and latest news. Don't miss subscribe for more Liverpool FC transfer news.